My son's girlfriend's mom just said something unspeakable. What is the worst thing you have heard parents say to their children? My mum yelled at my brother and blamed him for her miscarriage. Really hurt hearing her say that. Your sister was a disappointment. You are too. Now that she is gone, I can't take over and fix you. My sister just died in an accident 2 days before my mum said this. Have not talked to her in years now. I have no words. I'm so sorry for your loss and happy that you've removed that cancer from your life. I had a patient whose father kept on asking the doctor how much weight he needed to lose in the middle of a crowded waiting room. The doctor tried to take him to the back but made the mistake of saying he's following his curve. The father flipped out and said, I know he's a little fatty. I coach soccer and I'm absolutely disgusted by him when I see the other kids out there 20 to 30 pounds lighter than him. He said this in a crowded waiting room in front of his 11-year-old son. The doctor finally gets him to the back. The waiting room is deathly silent. I take the son to finish his physical and another patient's mother approached him and said, I know it hurts right now. I know you feel so terrible, but you don't deserve to be treated like that. No one does. And I want you to realize that one day very soon, you are going to realize that you are not the problem. And I hope when that day happens, his words stop hurting you. Because I know he's your dad and you're supposed to listen to him. But sweetie, adults can be very wrong sometimes. Freaking heck. I want to grow up to be like that lady. I bet that kid remembers that for the rest of his life. My grandmother once said to me, in front of my entire family, I wish I could love you as much as I love all my other grandchildren. It was horrible. My mother once told me, remember my tears touched every inch of your body. That's actually kind of hilarious. I can imagine a parent saying this to their child in a funny way, maybe when they're a little older, as a joke. Maybe wasn't in your case, but I guess it's all about context and delivery. Delivery boom. My grandmother tried to sell me when I was a baby. The only thing that stopped her was my great aunt shoving a shotgun in her face. You didn't have a great aunt. She was a freaking amazing aunt. Dated a girl in high school for a bit. Her parents loved me. Unfortunately, after a few months she decided I was a piece of crap. Whatever. The first time I went over to her house, her stepdad watched her go inside, then looked at me and said, yeah, too bad she's a butterface, right? He had to explain that to me. Or, as we call it in Australia, a prawn. The body is good to go but you have to remove the head first. My dad's always called my sister his accident and me his mistake. I think I'd rather be the accident. My dad said something in a similar vein to me recently. My brother and his wife just had a kid, my parents' first grandbaby. My dad told me a few weeks ago, I love the baby the way I just couldn't love you and your brother. My feels, man. One year on Mother's Day, my mother looked at me and my brother and said, I wish I never had kids. On Mother's Day the previous year, she tried to kill herself. I overheard my ex-boyfriend's father tell him to take me out to the middle of the lake in the boat and tell me to give it up or swim to shore. Oh, and that I had to go lay bitties. Classy dude. If I swim, we both swim, then tip the boat. My mom to me, while she was in the hospital awaiting the results of a lung scan, I would rather be dead from cancer than see my only son grow up to be gay. That's when you cross your fingers and say, well then let's hope for some cancer. My cousin's stepdad told him during an argument over the phone, why don't you just go kill yourself if you are so depressed? 2 hours later my cousin committed suicide by a gunshot to the head. He was 15. My mother once gave me a razor, told me to go kill myself, but to go do it in the bathroom so it would be easier to clean. As I walked away, she said and shut the door, I don't want your younger sisters to see it. I was 14. Okay, I've got another one. I was 18 or 19, and she was slapping me around on day. I'm yelling, I am now an adult. This is assault. I'm going to call the police and you will finally go to jail. And my mom, the psycho, is like, paraphrased a bit, go on, call the police, but then I will get some acid and a knife and mess you up so bad that it will be worth the jail time to see you messed up beyond recognition. So, then I hightailed it out of there quick smart. I was at my friend's house when I was little. I was in his room when he went to get something. I heard his argument with his mother downstairs. Mother, you're the reason we are in this debt. Go kill yourself. My friend died at the age of 14 due to suicide with his father's revolver. My dad straight up told me that he never wanted a child, but my mom did. The doctor made a mistake and told them they were having a boy, and when I came out a girl, my dad cried and walked out of the hospital. He legit didn't want me because I have a T. I was also 10 when he told me this. Your dad sucks. Having a daughter would be cool because then you could legitimately play with ponies and no one could mock you. I wanted to abort you but no one would drive me to the clinic. Looks like someone's not getting a Christmas card. Stepfather to 12-year-old me, you better not have gotten me a Father's Day present cause I'm not your father and I hate your guts. I'd reply of course not. The thought didn't even cross my mind, sucker. My mom recently told me I was the perfect child until I was violated when I was 11. Thanks mom. That's always good to hear. Sorry, but your mum's horrible. She isn't concerned with you as a human being, but only how good you make her look, and how little effort she has to put into your success. Whatever social and personal issues arose as a result of your trauma only presented an obstacle to her. She is just a plain selfish person, and you shouldn't concern yourself with her damaging opinions. I have several friends whose stepfathers apparently have no qualms about picking huge fights with them while there's company over, to the point that I'm not sure I know anyone who actually gets along with their stepfather. In my own family, when I was 9 my grandmother told me, if you eat a slice of pie, you'll weigh 300 pounds in high school, and other really nasty things about my weight. To the point that when I started high school and didn't weigh anywhere close to 300 pounds it felt like a major accomplishment. One time I walked into a Toys R Us as a mother was walking out with her very young daughter. The little girl trips, hits her head on the ground with a massive thud, and starts crying. The mom yells at her for falling. I really hate it when crap like that happens. I was 12 years old. A new girl arrived at our school. She was unpopular, quiet, wore a lot of makeup, and seemed to have no self-respect. I was a bit of a loner myself so I befriended her for a while. She told me about all the different guys she'd frick, about smoking herb and drinking. I was shocked and a bit put off but continued to hang out with her. I went to her house a few times. She lived in government-funded housing. Ugly, low income, depressing. Her house was a mess. Her mother reminded me of Mrs. Crabtree from South Park with a pack-a-day habit. Yelled at her a lot. This girl would sometimes be busy after school. She would say she has stuff she has to do but wouldn't elaborate. Eventually she ended up telling me that she fricked men for money that her mom sets up. They would come over and frick her in her bed. This was a couple times a week. Then her mom would take her to the mall and buy her a pair of bell-bottoms or whatever and keep the rest for herself. I was disgusted. We were in her bedroom one day. Her mom came in and told her that I had to go home because someone was coming over. My friend went into her mom's room to argue with her and I stuck my head in the hallway to try and listen. I don't remember everything they said but the last line always stuck with me. He just wants a BJ. And remember to swallow or we don't get all the money. That is absolutely horrible. That poor girl. Less than a week after my father-in-law died of cancer, my wife was, understandably, having a very hard time coping. She and her dad were really close. Her mother, however, decided for no particular reason to come into the room, sit down, and say, you know, your father wouldn't have died if you would have moved back in with us like I'd asked you to. It's your fault he died, and I'm glad he can't see you because he'd be extremely disappointed in you. TLDR. My mill is Satan's butthole. My wife was 23 when her dad died, and we were already married. Moving in with her parents was not gonna happen. Perhaps your father-in-law decided to die just to get away from his bee of a wife. Not only is she hilarious, the first thing she said was a compliment about your house. Though, I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt here. If she's really that trashy to think that's how you keep someone out and gain financial stability, shame on her. But the girlfriend isn't necessarily anything like the mother. No big deal. I was suspecting something flat out abusive, not just awkward. I'm in line at the grocery store, and this lady and her kid are in front of me. The kid said mama, I'm hungry and the mother corrected him and said it's I be hungry. Yup, the kid doesn't have much of a future with that kind of parental guidance. My mom was in Boston and she saw a mother and small child walking by. The child pointed to parked car and said, "Car." To which the mother replied, "No, it's car." Sad story. I was at Costco shopping and getting samples, and I see this brat kid running about. She was not listening to her stressed out mom and grabbing everything to look at it and wandering around for samples. The dad comes to the cart with a couple items, sees the little fart running around, and bellows, "Get your butt over here, you freaking brat." She didn't even listen until he came and grabbed her and jammed her in the cart. My son's girlfriend. "Do you have a cold?" Chandler to Monica, "I think you're sick because that," points to the ground, "used to be in your nose. I'm gonna grab you some tissue." Monica, "I don't need a tissue. I'm fine." D. Ross, "When you put a D at the end of fine, you're not fine." Episode 6.13, the one with Rachel's sister. As a teen dating a white girl, her mom said to me, "Yeah, no, I ain't much for N, but you're alright." The fuck? Obviously it was because you were green. I'd rather have you kill yourself than be with some F. Worked on a checkout, and a woman came through with her 10-year-old son who was quite fat. Kid was eating a large serve of chips and gravy he had bought from the deli, and looked kind of sad. He turned to his mum and said, "Mum, you sure this is food won't make me fat?" Mum didn't even turn around, just said, "Of course not, just eat it." Sad face. This just moved something inside of me. It made me feel extremely sad for the kid, but at the same time, extremely angry at such a parent. I was at a movie theater with one of my black friends. There was a few open spots by us. A child and his father were looking for seats, and the child pointed to the ones next to us. The father proceeds to say, "No, there is a black person in that row." We left. I was walking in front of a woman and her approximately 12-year-old daughter, and I heard the girl comment on how pretty she thought my dress was. This is what her mother said: "That's what W wear. Is that what you want to be when you grow up? A short-haired S like her? Are you gonna get pregnant next year? Are you gonna drop out of school and start drinking and doing drugs? Start whoring around? 'Cause that's what dresses like that do." Sometimes I don't know what I did to the good Lord to deserve a filthy devil-worshipping daughter like you. I should mention that the dress I was wearing hit just above the knees and wasn't even tight or revealing. Not that it would have mattered anyway. Her mom was just a C. My dad has called me all sorts of colorful names and was never kind to me, but at one point he told me the reason he left when I was younger was because he could tell I was going to be ugly, a loser, and a disappointment to him. And he didn't want the shame of telling people I was his child. I was 14 when he said this. Self-esteem? Non-existent. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.